Hello and welcome to Ouroboros Automotive. My name's Logan, and first and foremost, I want to apologize for not posting in the last few weeks, well, about a month. Dealing with things on my other side of my life with my job and a couple of other things that just limited my ability to record and edit videos. Not to mention the weather here in the great state of corn is very tumultuous and unable to really do a lot of actual on-vehicle repairs with the way the rain is and everything like that, and me not having a garage. So enough about that. I know in one of the last videos, we spoke about Mitsubishi's kind of overlander vehicle called the Mitsubishi RVR. And today we're going to shift from Japan and go all the way over to Germany, where we will be talking about the Mark II VW Golf. And here in the United States, the VW Golf was also sold as the Volkswagen Rabbit in the first generation, but in the second generation, it picked up the nameplate back to being the Golf. It was sold from 1985 to 1992 here in the United States. And a lot of production or sales weren't that great for the Golf itself. And so actually in 1988, I believe, the plant was actually shut down in the United States that produced the Golf Mark II. And instead, we imported our Golf Mark IIs from Mexico. And like with all of the other vehicles I've talked about, in their native countries, there are a vast number of submodels that we normally don't get to see here in the United States. And Volkswagen is no different. Actually, the Volkswagen Golf has a ton of random submodels, including a car that just has random colored panels that are different colored panels for some reason. And it's called the Harlequin. And it sold incredibly well for some odd reason. And actually, people don't know what they have anymore. And they sell them off because they're like, oh, I just have a vehicle with mismatched panels. Oh, which in reality, that was legitimately a submodel made by Volkswagen. But the submodel I want to dive into is the Volkswagen Golf Country. And this is a vehicle that was made in 1989 and never sold in the United States. And actually only about 7,800 were made in total throughout Germany. And it was only made for the one model year. And what makes this Golf so unique and so iconic, it was actually manufactured by Volkswagen to be an off-road vehicle. So this thing is actually powered by Volkswagen's Synchro system, which is their version of four-wheel drive, and is also a supercharged 8-valve 1.8-liter engine. And this little thing made 150 horsepower and about 183 pounds of torque. Which, I mean, not bad, especially when you're talking about 1989. So what makes this thing so unique is mostly due to the Synchro system, as well as the fact that when they lifted it, the front nose ended up with 8.3 inches of ground clearance. Not only did you get the massive ground clearance, but it was also offered with a bull bar on the front and rear skid plates, as well as a spare tire that was mounted on a swing arm on the tail of the vehicle. And I mean, in all honesty, these things were awesome. I really wish one came to the United States. And I think it's just one of those things where, like, you see all these weird off-the-wall things back in the late 80s and early 90s where they're just like, hey, let's design this. What happens if we do that? But I love this car. And so in the United States, we still today fight with the fact of importing multiple submodels of vehicles due to tariffs and taxes. There was a secondary submodel as well called the Golf Country All Around, which the Golf Country All Around, literally you just strip out all the electronics. It made it bare bones, basic, cheap, easy, and like, I say cheap, I mean inexpensive to make. But there's not much really you can do. There was also a Country GTI version, and that was only offered to VW staff members. Don't even really know how many were, like, in total were made. So it's hard to pin down how many of those things exist. Personally, I would love to own one of these, but obviously it's going to be almost impossible to find one in Germany, let alone trying to find one here in the United States. So let's get into how can we make one of these here and now. And this is actually going to be extremely difficult, mainly because of the way that Volkswagen had originally lifted the suspension and the design of the Golf Mark 1 or Mark 2 in general. It is a subframe based system with subframe on the front, subframe on the rear. It's hard to actually lift this suspension away from the body when you have that system set up. And it's not like when you're dealing with the Volkswagen X or like the Jeep XJ, where the XJ is a unibody frame or a unibody frame, but it also has two solid axles to it. Whereas the Golf Country, it ran the independent front and rear suspension. So pretty much what you would need to do is first find a Mark II Volkswagen Golf. Not overly challenging. Unless you're not a fan of rust, then yeah. For the front shocks and struts, you would want to run, and I've done a little bit of research on this, but from what I've read, you want to run the front shocks and struts from a Mark III TDI Golf. And then the rear shocks, you want to run the shocks and struts from a Volkswagen Passat, also Mark III. The biggest issue would be the synchro system. The synchro system was not really offered in the United States. It's almost impossible to find. And it's, I mean, even in the UK, less than 1,000 Volkswagens were sold with the synchro system. Your best bet would be trying to find a Volkswagen Vanagon from Canada, because they actually Canada actually did import and produce the Vanagon with the synchro system, which then after you find and source the engine and trans from that, then you would have to go into the custom work of movement of the suspension and everything like that, because it's not just about making it so the travel's longer. You also need to raise the vehicle up, and just simply putting it on larger tires doesn't really help, because then you're just going to be hitting the body and hitting different parts of your wheel wells and things like that. But that's all I have for this video. Again, this is a unique little car. This is a unique little submodel of a car that we've all seen driving around. I mean, you have seen the new Golf GTIs or running around everywhere. But it's one of those things where it's like, you can't pass it up. If I was ever offered one of these, where at a level that I could afford, which is like about $5 at this point, but I would definitely jump on it, and I would love to actually like try to make one of these at some point in time. But right now, it's just written down in a book of projects and wild, crazy ideas. And maybe one day I'll go through and make a video of some of my wild and crazy and insane ideas and see what happens. But that is all I have for you guys today. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for supporting me. I do have I have shirts, and now vinyls and decals are up on my site and up on ouroboros.automotive.com. I'll leave a link to that. But you guys can order some of the ones like Days Since Last Repair and the Jeep Repair Kit. Also, I will be coming out with another promotion. We didn't really hit the promotion that I wanted to last month. But this one's going to be more geared towards, I think we'll have a little bit more fun with it. And so, thanks again. And remember, just keep working on your projects. I'm still tinkering away here and there. Some videos are going to be coming out where it's going to be the start of different projects and different series and things I can get done, well, like at my workbench, as opposed to actually getting down and dirty on my Jeep. So, and it's all prep work. I mean, it's all things that are required, but it's just not actually installing them yet. But thanks again. Y'all have a great day, and I'll see you next week.